today what I wanted to do is, I've been going back and forth in terms of like, what should we talk about today? We only have 16 hours, right? This goes for 16 hours straight. And then we only have a limited amount of time. There's so much to talk about and so much I want to share with you and so many things that I'm learning about. And what I wanted to do today is just frame the conversation, especially with this community, because I think we need some shared understanding of what our call is in this space as the digerati, as the ministry points where we actually talk about ministry in a way that's different than traditional offline churches and ministry leaders, right? And I think one of the things that I will get as an objection, and there might be objections in this room too, and I'm happy to talk about it, is this fear of AI. And that, for example, the easy one is, hey, I'll get people that come up to me either during the talks or after the talks and say, hey, there's no way any pastor should be using AI to write sermons, right? You've heard of that objection, or you might feel that objection. And that there's no Holy Spirit in Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot or anything, right? Like there's no Holy Spirit in AI, and so therefore you should not be using it. And I think this community in particular, I think, is open to actually pausing a little bit more than usual, and reassessing our assumptions for how we come up to these snap judgments and ideas. And so that one objection, I think, is an easy rabbit hole to go down on. And I think one of the things I would say on the discussion part of that is, if you peel back the onion, many layers of what you actually believe, I think it comes down to, do you believe that God could have any divinity in the digital? Right? That's, the Toyota 5 whys. What do you believe? Why do you believe that? Why do you believe that? At the very bottom, the one question I think you all have to answer with this whole innovation front is that question of, where is that relationship between AI and God? Is God surprised by AI? Is this something that God can or cannot use for his own benefit, glory? Can he redeem anything that's negative that comes out of it? Where is this theology of technology that everyone has? And I think this room in particular are the ones that are the leaders in our Christian bubbles to be able to form it earlier and help lead others down the path of discerning where they stand on that theological issue. And so, do you believe that God can have any divinity in the digital? When your answer is formed on that one question, then we can draw a choose your own adventure visual map of your journey, right? Because if you are against it, it's one way. If you're for it, another. And so that's what I want to talk about a little bit high level for us to really get to. But before we do that, just a little fun thing. We're seeing a lot of novelty happen. Anyone have a guess which photo is not AI Kenny? Shout it out. Anyone? Which one is not AI Kenny? D is not AI Kenny? Who else? Another one? B? E? They're all AI Kenny. They're all AI Kenny. I've gotten to the point, right? So I work with AI, I talk about AI. If you go to my Instagram feed, there's tons of stuff early on, right? This all started since November 2022. And I have a lot of close friends who mock me and troll me, and people like Mark, right? Like they'll say, hey, that stuff is AI slop, AI crap. Stop posting that stuff, right? Like that doesn't look like you, or that is not your voice, or all the AI generated cloning. I will say in this last quarter, Q1 of 2026, it has happened 10 times. I actually should get people to record it. Or screenshot the text, 10 times in both categories, where people have said, stop posting that is still wonky, I could tell it's just not right? It's sure you got 5 fingers now, you don't have 10 on each side, but it is still, I could tell. And it was actually real photos of me. And then more than 10 on the other side, where they thought the other way around. right? And so we are really at this real inflection point where we've crossed the line between truth and fiction, of deepfakes, synthetic media. All of that stuff is becoming real, that we are now going to a point, right? So I'm gonna put it down in your journal today, April 2026. We are now at the point, at the very beginning, where synthetic media will become the default for our society and culture, okay? That is a huge, huge, huge change in everything that we do and impacts our relationship with content, with each other, with truth. There's a book I'm writing and it plays into a crisis of reality. But this is close enough. You guys are trying to figure it out because I'm pointing it out. But like, would your mom know? No, right? Would the average person scrolling on TikTok, Instagram, et cetera, no? They wouldn't think twice. In 3 months and 6 months and a year from now, it's gonna get so good, right? Where it will be default. There's no reason for me to set up a camera, to do a live stream, to do a recording, to do a promo video. There's no reason. I don't need to get dressed. I could just tell the AI what to do. I think that is something that everyone in this room, we have to really think about what the implications are. There's unintended consequences, there's intended consequences of when synthetic media becomes default. And so I think this is just something that we have to start to think about in our own lives. What happens when truth is no longer authenticated? If you cannot authenticate truth and everyone can make up their own truth, what happens? Okay, so that's just a side note. Today I want to bring you on a journey, and in order to do that I have to roll back the clock. Does anyone know what this is? This is a printing press in my high school. Back in 1980 something, 88, I graduated in 89. And so we had a printing press for our school newspaper. I was the editor-in-chief, and I actually ran a printing press. It was we had a one-color newspaper. I turned it into, I was kind of crazy. We went to 2 colors and then 4 colors, and it just meant I was at school till 2 a.m. with advisors and the team, et cetera. It was an amazing thing. But I was there at the time when this thing came into the room as well. Does anyone remember this? Does anyone? I still have one of these in my basement. This is an Apple II Plus. I have an Apple IIe. I have an Apple TV, which was really crazy. So this was in the room, in the printing press, and I was part of the initiative to get out of the old typeset stuff and into digital. And so it finally became something that is modern, right? That now, if you go back to the high school, they're doing everything digital. That was a very interesting point for me to learn, and looking back, that was one of the most impactful things for me as a technologist, as an innovator, as a creator, to really see what happened during that time. I learned a lot in hindsight of what was going on. That was 1989. A little bit after that, even now, you can see the decline of newspapers, right? Has anyone picked up a newspaper in the last 30 days? Right? You've picked up a newspaper. And it's hard to find newspaper now, right? We used to always have newspaper to ship stuff, and there's no newspaper in the house anymore. And so newspapers just has been eradicated, right? Because of that inflection point, that change in how we do things back in 1980s that I started. The New Jersey state paper last year, kaput, totally gone. So that whole cycle of innovation and displacement is totally gone at this point, right? We are now in a society that's not happening. There's so many other things where digital is taking care of analog and getting rid of it, right? Like, who has seen a penny, a nickel or a dime? I don't even know if my kids know what currency is, what those little metal things are, right? Like, we don't carry around cash anymore. The lesson that I learned in high school in hindsight, and that has been a repeating pattern that I want to share with you today, is that we need to understand that either we be disrupted or we lead the disruption, right? We are going to be disrupted or lead the disruption. You've heard of this all the time, but I think I want to bring this home to you right now, because you have the opportunity staring you in the face, whether you know it or not. Do you know what an inflection point means? Right back in in grade school, right? We drew graphs and charts and stuff like that, the nerdy stuff. An inflection point is when you draw a shape of a curve, and then at some point it might change, the trend changes. The shape of the curve changes direction. That point at which it changes is called an inflection point. You are living inside that, if we blew up the graph, on that one dot, you're living inside that dot right now. And for AI, we need to blow it up even further because we are literally like a microcosm in this gigantic dot. We have entered the dots and we have not exited the dot. We don't know where it is. Typically, we are not in the dot as consumer, mass culture, et cetera. We usually get hold of technology and products a lot further down the line when it's mature, right? Apple still hasn't really released AI, right? AI, this thing is still wonky. It doesn't work, right? There's so many things wrong with it. We just somehow got the cat out of the bag and everyone's using it. We are in this inflection point. That means there's a huge problem because disruption catches people off guard, and so you need to keep your eyes wide open. However, the part I want to share with you is something that's optimistic, right? Like we were at dinner last night. I was trying to be nice as a friend. I brought Mark a cup of water, and all he was focused on was, I didn't fill up the cup to the top. I gave him a quarter cup. He was like, it's an empty cup, right? Instead of looking at it as a cup of water half full, he's looking at it half empty, right? Anytime I can get a pot shot at Mark, it's possible, right? I need you to look at the full part of the equation right now. There is a massive opportunity because of this potential disruption that we're going through. Massive opportunity. This means that we need to get up a little bit early, put on your running shoes. You need to start moving. You need to get ahead of the curve because there's a massive opportunity that your last generation didn't have, and the next generation is not going to have the same rate of change available to them as we do right now for ministry, right? To be a herald of God, this is an amazing time to be a part of the story, that we just don't lose the amazingness of it. The magical moment that we're in, we need to take advantage of it, right? Okay, let's go back to 2013, where I started to actually get involved in explicit ministry. And from my point of view, it was being a church online pastor. I was one of the first official titles on a church staff that had the title Church Online Pastor. Before it was Media and Innovation Pastor, and then I took over Church Online for Liquid Church. Life Church and Saddleback and Christ Church, we were all trading notes, et cetera. It's a very generous and open-handed community, right? Today, it's not that strange. Back then, I was just pelted with critiques and trolls and all that kind of stuff, just like many of us in the room probably are with what we do in our ministries. This was a very formative time. Now, the thing that was different from that perspective for me, what I was trying to do is move from a multi-site church that had offline campuses into church online world, is that the assignment or the task that was given to me was, let's figure out what we do on Sunday morning, right? Let's do all these things, and let's try to make it all happen together, right? And so the idea was, let's do what every senior pastor does, the lazy copy-paste strategy, right? Let's just take everything that we do, put a single camera in the back, and then just copy-paste it onto online and say that we converted everything for online expression. We all know in this room that that's not the way to do it. That's not the answer, right? You can't copy-paste. What happened is I had a pastoral leadership team. Tim Lucas was very open-minded and creative and understood that that isn't the case, and we had space for experimentation. We were able to do a lot of things. And back then, we didn't have Zoom, we didn't have OBS, or what is it that you use, Mark? What's the? vMix, right? We didn't have all these tools of age, right? We've had to actually put on our MacGyver hat and duct tape everything. Zoom didn't work back then. We had like Skype. Like, who's gonna run their life on Skype, right? Back then, nothing worked, right? And so we were really trying to figure out how to duct tape things in while trying to create new models, while trying to convince, the traditional staff that what we're doing actually matters. we were juggling a lot of things to the point where that was my identity. My identity became Kenny MacGyver, right? And I really tried to figure out how in the world am I going to be the translator for this future that people can't see and the offline world that they live in today. The fundamental thing is that paradigm that I was living in, and is something that you guys are living in today. Like, I feel like you are my people. And that is my dreams for what I wanted to do and that what I saw creatively as possibilities outpaced the technology that was available to us, right? Every single day, and I'm reminded of it every single Monday in staff meetings when we debrief what happened on Sunday and the live stream went down or the chat didn't work, or right? Something didn't go right every single week. And I'm reminded every single Monday going into church that dreams are outpacing technology. And I was like, at one point, that gap is going to close. It's just going to get closer, hopefully, so that we don't have to have all these problems every single week. And that is the paradigm that actually we've been living in since 2013. Because what we try to do is do everything all at once. And when we actually slowed down and experimented, we realized that you can't do everything in Sunday online in 1 hour in a live stream in that modality. We have to break it apart. You have to decompartmentalize everything. And then you can start to figure out how to use the tools that you have available to you to actually have proper expressions. Respect the medium, respect the channel that you have, right? That is a very, very pivotal, critical paradigm shift that I've learned and we've applied over and over again today. Today, I'm a partner in a venture studio. We have 4 companies in our portfolio. We have a fund that we're investing in others. Previously, I've been a managing partner in a venture catalyst. We had 19 companies in the portfolio. This one idea is where innovation happens, right? This one idea where can we take what we see in the world, what people assume is the modality of things, and then can we pick it apart? Can we decouple what we know needs to happen and break those assumptions down and then reform assumptions and build a new model? That is something that I think in every person's space that you are here today, I want to push you to even go further than what you're doing today, okay? Can you actually break apart all the assumptions, decouple what you have going on right now, right? Even at Lux Digital, can we actually pull apart even further, go down 1 level, 2 levels deeper, break your assumptions down, and see what else might be available to us once we do that. Okay, let's go forward to 2020. Everyone knows what happens. We went into a COVID world, and then all of a sudden, Zoom happened, right? We no longer have to deal with Skype. Every grandma knows how to do Zoom now, right? FaceTime becomes popular. And then all of a sudden, right, we come out of COVID, and the church online pastors become popular, right? We were the losers, and now we're the superstars, right? At the end of the day, I think this was a huge thing that God gifted us in our community for the digerati, right? Because this was the revenge of the nerds, right? This was when we actually finally had the technology, the platforms, and we had traditional offline pastors and ministry leaders leaning forward to try to learn from us. Instead of putting us in a closet or the basement, now they're like, can you actually come help us? Can you actually figure out what do we need to do to actually go forward? And that has been a gift, right? So of all the things that COVID brought that were negative, there's so many silver linings and blessings that God uses for his glory. And again, what God has done is decoupled things and given us somewhat of a formula. I don't know if you've heard of it. Maybe you might have heard of something like this DRG framework, death, resurrection, glory, where let's kill our assumptions, assess and audit what we have, and then pull together a plan and then ship it. Let's figure out how to get it out the door so that we actually can make movement, get traction beyond where we are. So taking what we used to learn from our offline experiences and going forward, that's where I think there's so many different expressions of it, and all of you represent what that is today. So let's go back to the clock. Let's move it even further. Let's catch it up to where we are today. And that is generative AI. That's what we're talking about today. we needed to talk about all that, I think, to set this up. So generative AI came on the scene in 2022. AI was in here all different fashions up to then. But the mass market, right, this is the Google zeitgeist, tells us everybody's interest. Everybody started to type in, what the heck is this Gen AI thing? This is no joke, right? And the reason why this is important is that culture and media start to pay attention to it. This was no longer an innovation front. This is no longer just a technology. This is no longer something that you see at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas that I go to every year, right? It's not for the nerds. This is something that mass media culture, Time Magazine, New York Times, all the mass media take a hold of it. Because AI ain't no VR goggles, ain't Bitcoin. It's not these fads that the mass public doesn't understand, right? And there's a reason. Because a lot of people are trying to put AI still today in 2026 into the same buckets as these. These are niche technologies, right? They're not bad. They all have great spaces. In fact, does anyone remember the Google Lens? Right? I have one at home. I was a sucker. I bought one for like $2,500 at the beginning. Hardly used it. But guess who uses that device today? It's these really niche communities like special needs and other types of disability subsegments of the market are buying those in secondhand markets and utilizing them. So these technologies are not bad. They're just very niche. Generative AI is not that, right? And today I want to share with you why I think we need to pay attention. I think in this room, like every other room that I talk to, there's going to be a spectrum. There are people here that are nerding out all day, every day about AI. And there's probably some of you that haven't used AI yet, and that's okay. But I want to just put everyone on the same page to understand and frame why this ain't your grandma's VR goggles, right? Generative AI is a large language model. It started with text in, text out, so it's language. What industry, what niche, what industry, what job deals with language? Every one of them. It knows all the languages. Which country does not use a language? None of them. Every level of seniority in an organization uses language. That's why it's so ubiquitous today. It just has applicability much further than any of the other niche technologies you have out there, right? And because of that, the business world, the marketplace, is just starting to pour money into it more than usual. Usually you have a niche technology and you have one sector, one industry pour money into, raise money and pour into it. Here you have every single geography, industry, niche, level seniority that has applicability, and so there's money funding the development. That's why you're having this like turbocharge where the velocity is just so much faster than any of us can actually stand at this point. It's dizzying, right? The problem is, church hasn't fully opened its eyes yet, right? In that exponential AI Next survey, you see that the clear majority of people still are hesitant. 47% say AI is somewhat effective, and then everyone else is even below that, right? Only 27% of people, only a little over a quarter of the people in the church think that AI is going to be more effective. Let's just put a show of hands here. Who thinks that AI, let's ask the question, how do you think AI will impact your church's effectiveness in the next 5 years? Next 5 years, who thinks it's going to be significantly more effective in the next 5 years, right? So it's a little bit similar, a little bit higher skew, but similar. People are across the board. The speed is dizzying for everybody. I think that's part of the reason why there's hesitation, because everyone's like, I'll let it slow down, I'll catch up later. The problem is, I don't know if we have that ability, that possibility as we go forward. Let me just share with you this.
Routers in your house, they're bouncing off radio signals that work sort of like sonar. Can you go from that to where human beings are, to images? So what they did is they had a camera looking at a space with people in it. That's sort of like coming in from one eye. The other eye is the radio signals, so sonar from the Wi-Fi router. And they just learned to predict, like, this is where the human beings are. Then they took away the camera, so all the AI had was the language of radio signals bouncing around the room, and this is what they're able to reconstruct. Real-time 3D pose estimation, right? So suddenly, AI has turned every Wi-Fi router into a camera that can work in the dark, specially tuned for tracking living beings.
This is several years ago. This isn't even 2026. So just the Wi-Fi routers in this room could be used as surveillance mechanisms. And then we look at the bad actors, but you know what happens in our society? Data is used for what? Right? It's used for money. And do you think that the corporate giants are not going to use something like this? They're already determining where our phones are, right? I don't know if you know, there's something that I just saw that was, it was a very good articulation of it. But you know, the unlock, Siri has, you know, the visual unlock with your face, right? Face ID. What the social platforms now are doing with it is using it, because unlock, this is like nuts. Unlock, I could be looking at it, but looking over here and it won't unlock. It knows my eye attention, right? For attention, it looks at the IR signals and the retinas reflect back, so it knows when I'm looking directly at it, then it unlocks. That also means that Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all these platforms now can understand eye tracking on any given screen that you're looking at a post. So it knows that if you're looking at the bottom, if you're reading, wherever you're looking on the screen. And so data is used for profit. And so just imagine everything that you are using right now in terms of technology, including not using technologies, is walking around in public spaces where it can track where you are, right? Like today, if you visited my website, I could send you a direct mail postcard without you opting in, logging in, or giving me any information, right? We have data aggregation where all this triangulation of information, I know who you are to the point where I can get your physical address and then send you a postcard. This is going further steps because of AI. AI is allowing us to do so many amazing things, but there's all these other things, right? So the pace is dizzying, and regulations, policies, habits, behaviors is just hard to keep up. And I think this is where we feel the fear of AI. What is going what's the next chapter? What's happening tomorrow? What's happening the next day? I think this is the problem, and this is one of the reasons why people hesitate. But I think this is a little bit of the wrong way to think about it, right? It's not that we are trapped as prisoners of data and AI and the corporate giants. I don't think that's the right way to think about it. For us, because we are made in the image of God, creators, entrepreneurs, we actually have to think of it a different way. We can't look at it as just a simple easy button, like a Staples easy button, right? That's not the right way to do it. Or a vending machine, you push a big button, you only get one option, out pops something shiny, and what you get is what you get, you don't get upset. That's not the way to use AI, right? That is where we are the product, we are, right? We give them data, and we are at their whim. That is not the right way to use it. I think the best way to do it is to figure out a way to have some sort of relational paradigm where we look at it in a different way. So what is AI to us? It is the smartest intern that you've ever had, right? So it is not a replacement for you. It is an aid. It is a support. It is something that's an extra pair of hands to enhance what you do, amplify what you do, not replace what you do. That is very, very important when you go down to the expressions of specific tools and specific tactics, specific workflows. People forget this idea when we get these crazy new tools and start to use them at our work. And this is where you need to train your teams and your volunteers that this paradigm is very different than just letting it replace what you do. You cannot let it replace what you do. This is a huge, huge paradigm shift. Now, AI is evolving quickly, and I think we have to also be understanding of like, where is it going? Has everyone heard of AGI? We've got a couple. That's artificial general intelligence. AGI is when the machine is smarter than us, right? There's a threshold when AGI, across all general domains, that AGI, the artificial intelligence, is more competent than we are at anything that we do. And if you look at the experts, all the experts have different timelines for when our industries will hit AGI. 10 years, 6 years, 5 years, 25. This in particular is a slide that needs to be updated like every 3 to 6 months, because every one of these experts are reducing down their estimation of when we're going to hit artificial general intelligence. If you look at Sam Altman, he's now saying that we're going to hit AGI for sure in the next year or two. In the next year or two, for sure, machines will be smarter than us across all general domains. That's something that we're not prepared for, we haven't talked about as a society, et cetera. So this is the pathway, right? We started with text in, text out, then we started to go multimodal, audio, images, videos. This is the fun stuff that's happening right now. We are starting to see workflows, automations, agents happening. Is anyone using Claude Code or agents in the room, right? So there's a couple of us that are using it. This is the stuff that we have to get up to speed with very quickly. If not, you personally using it and starting to build things, which is just magical. It's amazing what it can do today. You need to find a friend that is using it and start to look over the shoulder. You must start to observe to appreciate what's going on. And then the future is this idea of a second brain, that we will have personal AIs with us all day, every day. This is where it's going, where Claude knows, for example, because it's in my Gmail inbox and has read all of my United Airlines receipts. And it knows that I'm a big guy, 6'1", and typically large guys, when you book a plane, where do you sit? You sit in the aisle so that you can get out, you have some room. I personally like the window because I conk out and I don't want to hit the cart all the time in the aisle with my head. I like to lean against the wall. And so AI will know that every single time I book a plane, I am pattern recognition booking a window seat. So when I ask AI to find my flights for this next trip and book it for me, it will predictably do that for me already, right? So for example, I just came back from Missional AI, and I said, hey, I'm going to this next trip, which is this conference. After this, I have to put in expense reimbursements for Missional AI. But I'm not going to be able to do it here while I'm here. I'm busy. Can you actually find the reimbursement form and then give me a reminder? That's what I asked Claude. Claude said, should I put a calendar event on your thing? I see that you're returning to town on Thursday morning. You have some free time. I said, great. It put a calendar event on my calendar on Thursday with the link to the reimbursement form that I found in my emails. And then predictively it said, you might have some questions because they have a tricky reimbursement. Here is the contact information of the person in the email thread if you have questions. I didn't ask for that, but it put that into the calendar, right? So we are now at a point where it is predictively executing on my behalf. This is where you might have heard OpenClaw and all these other things where the agents are running 24/7, right? There's a run at the Apple Store. No one is able to buy the $599 MacBook Mini anymore. They're sold out everywhere. I think this is the future where predictive, personalized AI is going to be available to every single one of us. And that's both scary, but also it's going to give us tons of opportunity. So what does the second brain look like? What does the second brain look like? Is anyone up there? Let's try it one more time. Third time charm.
Can we go from the patterns of your brain when you're looking at an image to reconstructing the image? This is an image of a giraffe that the computer has never seen. It's only looking at the fMRI data, and this is what the computer thinks the human is seeing. Yeah. So in this one, they said, can they understand the inner monologue, the things you're saying to yourself in your own mind? Well, we'll try this. So they had people watch the video and just narrate what was going on in the video in their mind. So the woman hit in the back, she falls over. This is what the computer reconstructed the person thinking. See a girl, looks just like me, get hit in the back, and then she's gone. So our thoughts are starting to be decoded. Yeah. Just think about what this means for authoritarian states, for instance.
So Reading my Gmails is one thing. Reading my thoughts 24/7 is a totally different thing. And that is the future. Like, again, this is the years ago. We are well beyond this. The maturation of these technologies is absolutely fantastic. And so he flags surveillance states, there's a risk and all that kind of stuff. But then on the upside, there's all these other things. I think there's unintended consequences that we need to think about. And this is just one of those places where, hey, can we decouple what's going on in this space and actually rethink what is going on to our benefit? Can we figure out like how do we use this for our good, for the objectives at hand, for the goals that God has put in front of us, right? One of the problems sometimes is like we have this wild field of vision. Social, digital, the internet has given us a wider field of vision. But sometimes I think God just wants us to narrow our field of vision and then actually pay attention to just the call that he's given us, the mission at hand, focus on that and get traction on that. And in that way, you're able to pull in from things that you've gotten from the wide field of vision to the point where you bring it in and find the relevance point. Your job, the human in humanity, is that discernment piece of how do you figure out how to bring something from the wide field of vision to the narrow one. And that is the innovation that actually is going to happen. Okay, so you have a choice, right? As I said, there's a choose your own adventure in front of you. We can look at the narrative that we subscribe to what the heck is going on in this innovation front. Is it human versus machine, or is it human with a second brain? What is the actual upside that we're actually looking at in terms of AI? Because if you look at human in the loop as the actual answer, that's the truth, then we have to stop it. We have to limit it. We have to actually compartmentalize it. We have to kill AI. If you think of it a different way, then it looks like, wow, there's something that amplifies what God has given us in our humanity. And I think that is the difference in outlook and posture. And I will say more and more, as leaders, it's going to be very important to discern what your teammates have in worldview on these two things. More and more, you're going to need to find critical alignment on this choose your own adventure on your teams, because it will change the expression of the work that they do and whether or not they are for your specific, the modality of what you're trying to do with your organization or not. So what's next? Decoupled thinking, I think, is the thing I want to leave with you. And here's, again, back to my newspaper story, the lesson learned, but I think I'm going to use this as an example, but I think you could use it with so many other things and industries in front of us, right? So what is a newspaper? The New York Times. In it is assumed that everything was packaged together. The news, the commentary, advertising, right? All that stuff was packed together. That was the assumption that you need to do. The online version of that the reason why they died is they tried to accomplish all that at the same time together. But if you decouple it and you do it in the marketplace where there are actual disruptors and innovators, creative people that understand that there's more than just that one model, do you notice and do you know any of these brands? These brands are bigger than the original legacy model, right? The decoupled expressions, I want you to catch this. The decoupled expressions are bigger than the legacy model that originated it. Right? What are you guys doing here? You are doing a decoupled expression of the legacy model of church in a white steeple building in a suburban zip code. And I think, even talking to some of you last night, there is this sense of, well, we're always going to be this sub-community, and we're misunderstood, or finally we're getting some recognition. But the real potential here of disruption as the disrupted, decoupled model can become larger than the original. And that is something you have to really challenge yourself. Is that a possibility with God on your side? When you know the end of the book, how the story ends, with God on your team, is it possible? I think you need to really think through that. Here's another one. Does anyone recognize this site? Some oldies in the room? You're a boomer. Do you recognize this site? Yeah. Guess what? This site still exists in this form. They have not evolved. They have not hired any web developer in the last like 50 years, right? Craigslist still exists like this. However, let's do the same thing. Do you notice any of these brands that have decoupled the business model of Craigslist and taken it and ran with it? All of these brands are challengers and bigger than what the original legacy model had. And so this is the opportunity as an innovator, as a creator. How do you look at what's around you right now and then look at the possibility in a different lens that says, wow, what I'm looking at is small in the legacy model because I could blow that out, and if we just applied our creative thinking and the new tools and the technologies that we have and the new methodologies and goes to different audiences, that we actually can create something much larger. Does that make sense? We are now looking at this old model where I said, hey, constantly, we're in a role where dreams outpace the technology that we have at our disposal. We are finally in 2026 at a place where the script has flipped. And I'm here to challenge you. Literally, this is the most serious thing. I want to challenge you where your thinking is. Are you thinking, coming into this room before breakfast, that the dreams that you have outpace the technology that you have? Or are you thinking the other way around, that, wow, we're in a state where the technology is outpacing the dreams that I have, and I need to readjust the dreams that I have for my own ministry? I think this is a big challenge that a lot of people are scared of, because what happens if everything that I dreamt of is actually possible at 1x, 5x, 10x of what my dreams are today? What happens? I think it's time to dream bigger. I think it's time to dream bigger, especially for these types of communities like yours. This is the reason why I came out here, right? Like, this is one of those things where I want to encourage you guys to really think bigger, collaborative. Find the organizations, right? Reliant is here. YouVersion is here. I would start to not just look at them as coming into the community. How do you actually proactively go out to the legacy partners, the people that actually have the resources, the networks, learn from them, partner with them, inspire them? Lead them versus not the other way around. Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple of things and just have a couple of discussions because I think this is really, really important. In our venture catalyst for our startups, entrepreneurs, et cetera, we always have this whiteboarding question with technology, right? Let's drop all assumptions, right? Willing suspension of disbelief, right? You've heard that term? Willing suspension of disbelief. That's what we do when we go to the movies, right? We willingly suspend all these things. We're like, that's impossible. He can't fly, like that, right? Like, we willingly suspend our disbelief and we enter into the story to see what's possible. And I think that's what you need to do with innovation. And so we typically ask, what if we blanked with whatever the technology is, with whatever the tool is, whatever the partner is, right? What if we? How might we? What if we, how might we do X? So whatever you're doing, whatever your job is, whatever your project is, whatever your campaign is, whatever your event is, I think you need to think through those two questions and not think of it as binary, all or nothing. We got to stop this thinking of like, let's just slather on AI to do anything and everything or nothing, right? Compartmentalize it, decouple it, and say, what are the pieces that AI actually is a sweet spot for? Before we do that, I just want to run through these 4 truths that I think is important that we share with people, right? The first one is the future is here waiting for you, right? It's actually waiting for you. It's not anything else other than that. Most people think that the future is this because the narrative that we hear about AI and technology is what? From stories, from Hollywood, right? Terminator, Skynet, et cetera. That's where we come and hear these feelings, or empathetically, we see a lot of people have fear in their hearts about AI, this fear of looming obsolescence. FOMO is what social media and Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff has created. AI has created FOLO, fear of looming obsolescence. And this is something that you as ministry leaders need to pay attention to, because the red herring is we need to talk about AI in our own workflows as ministry leaders. The real opportunity and the real challenge and the real problem coming down the pike is the fear that's happening outside in the spaces that you're called to actually minister to. The fear in the people that you're trying to reach. The fear of looming obsolescence is something we need to talk about. Right? General artificial intelligence. We are literally here where human performance is going to be outpaced by computer performance. Jobs are going to be lost. Entire vocations are going to be gone. Our identity is going to be gone. Significance and meaning, all of that's going to be gone. What do we do with that? Right, this, again, I'm just giving you some data to show you just how real this is, how urgent this is. This is not the future. We're no longer writing sci-fi. This is here today. Actually, it's yesterday. This is 2022, where human performance is being outpaced by computers, by AI, in all of these domains, right? We know that AI can pass the bar exam, the medical MCAT exam. It's passing all these much faster than humans. What do we do with that? Singularity is that next step, right? That's when we transcend, and this idea of transhumans, where we are integrated all together, that is just a crazy future. But one thing that we have to really pay attention to is the present, not the future. There's an obsession that all the big tech companies have with AI, and I don't want you to be kind of like distracted by that, because they just think it's a fad. And on our levels, as ministry leaders, we need to look beyond that, right? Because look, this was at one of the shareholder meetings. Right? Big tech is just AI happy, right? And I think that's the problem that we have to get over. We have to get beyond that. We have to mature beyond that. They're paying big money. Like, one person is being recorded for $2.7 billion, right? Is it a trend? That's the question. I don't think so. We need to figure out. Now, we are tricked into thinking, because ChatGPT is still wonky, right? We have this innovation. The promises of the technology just aren't there at times, right? And so it's easy to say this is a trend, or we'll wait. We'll catch up when it actually fixes itself. I think that's a danger. The rise of not just usage, but mainstream adoption into societies is important. So there's 3 markers of disruptions that stick, which is the reason why I need you to take this seriously more than you are now, just for yourself, for your staff, your teams, your volunteers, and the people that you actually minister to your family, if you have kids, to your kids. The first is that ubiquitous applicability we talked about. Second one is that it's actually useful. We know that it's surpassed human domains, so yes, it is actually useful. Third one is this universal investment, right? And so if you look at innovation fronts, when you hit these 3 markers, that's when it's here to stay. When it's here to stay, that's when you have to pay attention, and you have to hop on the bandwagon. You actually have to start learning this stuff. And once you do, you have to get ahead of everybody. Because there's a choice, right? That choose your own adventure is either you're going to flourish or you're going to flounder. And so if you are one of those people that are still hesitant today, this is just like, if you're looking for a sign, today was it. This is the day that you should wake up and say, hey, I want to flourish with AI. I need to figure out how to do more, better, in a way that's more dynamic and richer, that honors God in a way that I haven't been able to do today. Second truth is you have to rethink what we do. You have to reframe our jobs. I think this is just really interesting. There is a general understanding that AI is going to disrupt not just one thing. So it's not just, hey, it's going to create better sermon graphics for us or anything like that. It is anything and everything. We're seeing the recognition from church leaders that everything. Counseling was the number one thing. I bet you if we did a focus group here, no one would have bet that the number one thing that pastors and church leaders think that it's going to disrupt is counseling. Counseling has the most disruptive potential. And that makes sense, because the Harvard Business Review studied, and the number one use case of ChatGPT is what? Personal therapy and companionship. The number one use case by average consumers is personal therapy and companionship. That's an opportunity for us as church leaders. It's not a discouragement, it's an opportunity, because it's something that is a signal of what's happening, that people are spiritually curious. We are seeing church leaders starting to use it, 78% more than just rarely. They're using it on a regular basis. So if you're not in that 78%, this is just one of those social proof points to hopefully convince you, look, you need to start to find education for yourself, upskill, and more importantly, raise your voice so that your peers will help you and bring you along. This is not an individual sport. In our niche and industry of church, this is a team sport. You cannot look at this as an individual sport. The limiting belief against that truth that it's a threat to our ministry, the thing is that's applicable to anything and everything that we do, right? There's so many things that AI is applicable to. The third truth is that AI adds, it doesn't replace. This is a framing that I think gets people by surprise, and I think it opens up a new thing, right? AI is a threat that's not going to take over everything and demolish everything. If you look at every other innovation front behind it, we did not, when we had the radio, we did not kill the radio when we had television. Radio is still thriving. No one can kill radio. It still exists, right? When we got the internet and YouTube, it didn't kill television. Television still exists. And you go into every home, a large TV is still in the living room as the centerpiece. It's still there. When we got the smartphone, we still have laptops and tablets and all these things. It still exists. When we have social media, right, we still have all these other things. And so if you look at the progression and how adoption of technologies happen, it's more of one of integration and adding versus removing everything else. And the fact that AI kills relationships, this is like I have a love and hate relationship with this concept and idea, because part of it I think is true, but on the whole, I don't think it is true. We do have a push by big tech, right? That Elon is saying that I think by 2030, I don't know, I forgot the number, but like 80% of homes are going to have like a C3PO type of thing, right? We're going to have these humanoids that we will have relationships with. The thing that I'm hypothesizing is that your relationship with a humanoid is not going to replace a human relationship. It is going to be a different category, just like, well, this was at the Consumer Electronics Show. It is not there yet, right? It's getting better and better. It's like those dogs with being trained to hit buttons to communicate to you. We are seeing more and more progression at light years ahead. But I think the relationship that we will have with these humanoids is going to be like with my dog Pom Pom, right? This is Pom Pom. Pom Pom is loyal. I love Pom Pom. Pom Pom loves me. But it's a different relationship than I have with my kids or my wife or you or me, right? So much better. So much more loyal, right? We can learn from Pom Pom. But it is a different quality of a relationship, different expectations, different inputs. It's a completely different thing. We have overlaps. This is where we need to start to think through and decouple what does relationships mean? Because loyalty, like you said, right, is part of human relationships and is part of my relationship with a dog. But they're not the same. They have the same word, but they're not the same. All right? There's all these things. We need to start to tease out what is the nuances of everything that we're actually talking about. Relationships is the thing that we need to actually become PhDs in. Because relationships is the product of the church. We're in the business of relationships. We're not in the business of knowledge transfer. I think that's what the big box churches have gotten wrong. That we're now in a sit and soak business model where people come in by the thousands, sit for, well, it depends if you're a Baptist, Pentecostal, whatever, either 12 minutes or 50 minutes or more than an hour, but you just sit there, sit and soak, and then you leave. That's knowledge transfer. That is not our business. Our business is relationships, because the relationships is the only way, it's the only gateway to life transformation, right? And so we will have different types of relationships, but we need to start to imagine what they are with these humanoids before they get here. We still have time. So in an age of fear and distrust and isolation because of AI and technology, I think we need to double down and go back to basics and really nerd out on what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be human? As a church online pastor, that's one of the things that I really started to understand, and that's why I was inspired to go to seminary and try to derail my seminary classes and all that kind of stuff, because relationships that are virtually mediated are a completely different thing if you understand what relationships are, right? Like, so for example, I went to seminary for 3 years full time. I had kids, and my wife was working in the city, so I had to drop off my kids, drive an hour and a half to Princeton Seminary, take my MDiv classes, come home, get the kids for pickup, and then I couldn't get to homework until like 9 p.m. By the time I'm done, it's probably 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Everyone's snoring in the house. I'm excited because of what I read from John Calvin or whoever, and I have no one to talk to. And so I hopped on Twitter, and that's where I started to have all these friends on Twitter from the West Coast, because I was on the East Coast. They were still up, right? And we started a prayer night. Back then it was TalkBox. Does anyone remember TalkBox? Right? That was janky, but it worked. And so every Tuesday night we had a separate call for prayer. And I will challenge anybody at my local church, every pastor who objects to church online, all that stuff, the people that are sitting in the same row at my church at home in New Jersey versus the guys that were in the Tuesday night prayer night on the janky video call every Tuesday night, who did I know better? Who did I have more authentic, loving relationships with? The guys that said, hey, nice weather, right? Good shoes, whatever, right? Versus the ones I was crying with and sharing with at a distance and I've never met in person. And so I think we need to start to think through what is it, right? What constitutes a real relationship? But even go further. We need to decouple that another couple of degrees. We have been okay with understanding just that one level of surface, deep understanding of that. How do you take the physicality out of it, remote, asynchronous, all that kind of stuff? My challenge to you is we need to go 1, 2, 3 levels deeper right now. It's up to us to be the pioneers, to excavate that, understand what that is, let that bubble up and teach back to the people who are on the surface. Part of the thing about humanity is kids always teach us the truths. What we teach in our KidMin ministries is part of the things that I think that digital, online, gaming, streaming, all this kind of stuff can actually get to. Can we get to these human ideals that have been lost in society and culture today? How might we use AI to actually institute some of these specific ideals, like the things that we actually want to figure out how to protect, because these are the human things that AI will never take over? How do we privilege them, support them, raise them up, highlight them, put a spotlight on them, and then institutionalize them in our own behaviors in our communities with AI, with technology? I think that is the challenge that we have today. Not just talk about it, not just preach about it, but can we actually build technology for it? The last truth is that the public square is important as the stranger in the public. We usually think of our ministries in this room as one-to-one, that we're trying to get to the lost soul. 1 is greater than 99, that whole equation. But at the same time, the historic church has been a force multiplier for the public square. And I don't think that many churches or Christians today are thinking that way anymore. We've lost that appeal to actually have any applicability, any relevance to the public square. The church historically has been able to create our institutions of hospitals and education and all these things, but no longer, right? And so in our own space, what does that mean in our own translation? Don't miss the forest for the trees, because the church historically have been able to do these large things, and the internet, the connectivity that we have at our disposal, gives us advantages that offline ministries and churches don't have at their disposal. And that might be going down the 7 dimensions of human flourishing. It might be those KidMin ideals and practices. Those are the types of things, right? So here's just one little example. AI is turning social media into the next frontier for suicide prevention. At 2 hackathons I've been to, there have been Christians that have built suicide prevention apps, tools, that predictively figure out based on conversations, because you might not talking about explicitly taking your life or doing something or self-harm, but there are patterns that AI can recognize, right? What AI is great at is taking disordered data and creating order out of it, pattern recognition, better than you and me. That's why Amazon had to pull back. They knew you were pregnant before you were pregnant, right? AI, I don't know if you knew that story. Amazon did big data analysis of their customers and the buying habits and all that kind of stuff. They knew when you were pregnant, even though you didn't announce it to your family, et cetera. You're buying things in a different way. You're browsing things in a different way. They started to send promotional materials based on that data. And one, it's creepy. But 2, it was not accepted, so they pulled it back. But you can use it for good. How do we use AI for good for things like this? That's where I see tech and faith really are compatible. They're not incompatible. We talk about this idea of technology is neutral. People are not. We have a fallen world. But God needs you and me to look at the compass, the strategic map for your ministries. You are not just individuals. I think the thing that's the value of everyone in this room is that you're leaders within ministries, that you have some game plan, not just on an individual basis living out Christian living, but you actually have something that's a little bit bigger than yourself that you're trying to pour into. And because of that, you have this compass that I think we have at our disposal that God has given us in a way with the technology and tools that we have to give life-serving impact in a way that's never been possible. What I'm trying to say, if you haven't caught it, is you have a unique gifting, talent, and access to tools that everyone else doesn't. It's like this little secret that you guys have access to, but we don't know it yet, not fully. So how do we embrace that, right? And just that fear that everybody has, there's concerns, there's ethics, all this kind of stuff that everyone's concerned about. The pastor in a white steeple church who doesn't use AI that much is never going to figure this out, right? It's digitally native people that's going to lead and have those questions and answers and be able to steward those conversations. The church needs a distinct theology of AI and technology, and it's going to happen from people in this room. It's not going to happen from the church down the street. Do you believe that? Right? A theology of church approach to technology and AI specifically is going to emanate from people in this room. It's not going to emanate from people out there that doesn't understand technology, that don't live on the internet, that don't understand the people that do live with technology in a native fashion. We're depending on you. It's up to you. The pressure is on you and me to figure this out and share it with the rest of the kingdom. And these are the questions I think we have to start with. Like, how can you use AI with losing authenticity? How should ministries do, what should we do about this job loss thing that's looming over our heads? How can we remain sacred in our worship? My local worship leader at my own church is afraid of AI because of the songs. He's now getting all these people. He typically gets people who write songs to say, hey, can you play this on Sunday? And now they're all AI slop. Like everyone's just creating AI songs and asking him to play it. How do you get beyond that? There's all these questions I think we need to do as leaders. The church itself has an identity that we refuse to adopt. We have this name tag and we hide it. God was an entrepreneur. God was a disruptor from chapter 1. That's our identity. You look at the Imago Dei, we are disruptors. And yet we have this name tag we cover wherever we go, especially for this community here. And it started with this. This is the Gutenberg Bible. My daughter's university library has a version, one copy of it. Every day someone comes in and turns the page, one page a day, every single day. Wouldn't that be cool? If that was your job, you just read a page of the Bible every day. That started a revolution. I think the revolution that's happening today is going to be bigger than that, bigger than the printing press and bigger than the Gutenberg Bible. It's hard to imagine that's what we have at our disposal, but that's really what's going to happen. But it takes courage for us to understand what the potential is. And in order to do that, we have to disrupt ourselves, right? We have to actually sacrifice this ego that says, hey, what we're doing is the thing we should be doing. Maybe we should be doing something different. Maybe we should be doing something new. Maybe we should be doing something in a way that transcends our original dream. Think bigger. And just a reminder, because I've had at Missional this last week, 4 people talked about this idea. And this is the thing that I came back. Look, it's not comfortable. Growing is not comfortable. They're not. There's no Venn diagram where you can be both comfortable and you're growing. It just doesn't happen, right? And so if you're comfortable in your ministry, that's a problem. You need accountability partners to poke you and move forward. That I think is something that we can do as community for each other. So there's three calls to action. I want to we don't have that much time, but I'd like to just at your own table just spend 2 minutes thinking through this and sharing with each other. What's one fear you have regarding your future because of AI? And no matter where you are, so there are like AI nerds in this room that are actually coding and doing all this crazy stuff with AI, magic tricks with AI. Even the advanced people, there's a future that we're kind of scared at. If you look at Sam Altman and his interviews, he's identified some really big, scary, crazy scenarios that he's afraid of, right? They've all flagged these things. So I'd like to just break and just say, hey, we have 2 questions I want to have you guys discuss. So the first one is this: what's one fear you have regarding the future of AI? If we can just take it's 11:52, just to 11:55. It's very quick. I just want you to think of one angle, posture, thinking for yourself. What's one fear about AI regarding your own future? The impact of AI, and discuss amongst yourself. I'll bring you back at 11:55. Go ahead. $60 seconds. Okay. I know not everyone got to it. I want you to think about the second question. We're going to end with the second question and go to something hyper-practical. We're going to change gears. What's one limiting belief that you're holding about AI? What's one limiting belief? Can you be self-aware and try to identify something that's holding you back, or some preconceived notion about AI that you have that actually is a filter, a lens that you have in your relationship with AI, as opposed to other people that you see that are going crazy with AI? What's one limiting belief that you're holding about AI? Discuss it amongst yourselves. Okay. Hopefully you got some ideas from each other and really think about these things. I think these are two questions that's really good discussion fodder for team meetings, for volunteers, for your family members to go back and really start to out each other with the thoughts that we have in our mind. We don't spend enough time articulating what's going in our hearts and what's in our brains, et cetera, and how we're actually consuming the news about AI today. And that's the question, is how might we become divine disruptors beyond what you are doing right now? You have a calling card right now, right, into the Association of Divine Disruptors to be in this room. But I think the question is, how do you actually get to the next level? And I think it's this one thing. If you're still hesitating, if you're against it, if you find objections, I think you need to, you can still have that at the end of the day, it's okay. But I think you need to be articulate why, and it can't be surface level stuff. And the only way to do that is conversations with each other. But in my mind, I think we have to, as church leaders, start to indoctrinate the other Christians around us that AI is not going to replace our human touch, but it's going to amplify what we are called to do if we are intentional about it. And that's what we need to be. We need to be intentional about everything that we do. Okay, so what I wanted to do is right before we break, we're going to break for lunch for half an hour now, right? Yeah. So right before that, I just want to share with you two things before we go, just to inspire you. After lunch, if you're going to bring your laptops, we're going to get into some really super practical tools, because I think I've got some requests like, hey, what should we use? What's the latest things? That's one. And then we're going to get very quickly into vibe coding. Has anybody, who's been vibe coding already? Has that a significant number? Okay. So some of it might be a little bit new, but to entice you, we've gotten Lovable. Does everyone know Lovable? Lovable is one of the platforms for vibe coding. There's Lovable, Replit, Cursor. There's all these new platforms that help you vibe code. And vibe coding is basically coding new things, websites, tools, apps, web apps, without knowing any programming language. So if you don't know coding, don't be scared about this. This is magical. If you can chat to ChatGPT about a problem and a solution that you want, AI is going to come in and actually help you code something for you. You never see any code. You never have to talk code, never need to know or anything like that. And I think, can I get an amen? Is that true from the people that are vibe coding? And is that a true claim? Right? That's an absolutely true claim. You do not need to know any coding. So do not be scared from this afternoon session. But we partnered with Lovable. Our venture studio is a partner of Lovable. So we got a bunch of free credits. So you're not going to need to pay for anything. We'll give you the code. We'll set you up. Even the guys that actually have Lovable accounts, you'll be able to get 100 credits, and we'll be able to get through that. So you'll actually be able to build something. We've done this several times. At the last conference, it was a bunch of church leaders. What did we build? We built a volunteer hub for Sundays. Another one, we built a whole kids check-in app for church, like a whole working kids check-in app with label printers and barcodes and QR codes for parents and allergy tags, everything. Admin for attendance in the background. We built all that in 45 minutes. Another time we did a digital church bulletin for a church online pastor. So they had church online, but everyone knows there's a second screen. So can you follow along and do all the stuff on the second screen? So we built a church bulletin app, fully working. Someone built an event app for, they had elders meetings, so all their elders meetings, they had all this stuff put into one place. Another one did it for a conference, for a big hackathon with over 500 participants. They built the whole conference app for it. So we're going to vibe code in the second half. It's going to be fast and furious, a lot of fun. So bring your laptops. If you don't have a laptop, still come. I think this is a friendly group. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are willing to let you watch over the shoulder or be a compatriot in doing that together, right? I can assume that. This is a friendly group? Yeah, everyone except for Mark. And so I'd love for you to come back. So just to give you an example of what's happening, right now, you can clone yourself a video. And so I can literally clone myself a video. So for example, I was trying this HeyGen, but for some reason they are not getting my voice. And so with just the picture,
I'm here in Colorado Springs for the
so it substituted another voice. But it was not a video, it was me sitting down in a chair, and it created this whole video.
Ministry Summit. Too often, creative visions, mission.
Right, so now you're able to create video clones of yourself, etc. now you're able to do that and send people into calls. So Pika is one. And so I'll just share this 1-minute preview video of this thing, and then we can go to lunch. Whoops. Here we go. This is live now.
Oh my god, hi Cheryl. Hey Letty. Why don't we meet face to face?
That is real. So you can train your own avatars.
Can you book me a meeting with Demi?
Done. I found an opening in your calendars at 3 p.m.
I think we should go all in on swim fits.
Remember, the competitive research indicated otherwise.
Touche. Okay, debate time. Is hot dog a sandwich?
What? Absolutely not, man. It's not.
Speaking, sandwiches have been relegated to the realm of proper bread. I don't know. Does it matter? Hot dogs are delicious.
So I'm hoping your creative energies will start to recognize where is this going, right? And so every AI technology that we are demonstrating today at this summit is the worst version of AI that you will experience in your life, right? It's the absolute worst, trashiest version of AI that you will see, because the velocity of improvement of all these AI tools are just like crazy fast, right? They're doing releases every week, right? And so what you just saw as a demo, that you're able to train an agent to go autonomously into the call and have unprompted, right? No one's typing what they're having live interactions in a video live stream channel. That is the future. But it's actually the present. And so what are we going to be able to do with that? I think we need to start to think about what are the applications, how do we use this, and also defensively, how is culture, society, big tech going to use it that we need to counter? So I think those are the things that we need to do. And the last one, just the last one. So I ripped off a sermon from Mark, right? I put it into Google Notebook, and then I started to, we'll talk about this afterwards, but I created some infographics of your sermon, Mark. Imagine you do this every single week. Imagine you have a volunteer that actually builds comic book versions of it, or what's another one that was good here? Anime. And again, these are things that you can actually prompt to go even further. Legos. Who's into Legos? Look at this. Summary of his sermon in Lego format. And so you now have the ability for free, right? This is all for free, to be able to go into all of these different content pieces that you have and produce just crazy renderings that you can actually put out there. And then there's also video. So let's go back to Mark because his sermon was really good. And now you can actually do video recordings and audio. Let's do this one. I'm going to speed this up for everyone's sake.
A highly specific mission for you today.
We really do. We are basically handing you the ultimate cheat sheet.
Exactly. We know you've got an online small group discussion coming up this week, and we want you to walk into that little room looking just incredibly insightful.
Right, like the smart friend who already read the notes and did all the homework for everyone else.
Yeah, we're doing the heavy lifting, we're analyzing the theology, the history, the psychology of the text, so you can drop some major wisdom in the chat without, spending hours prepping.
It's all about giving you the underlying mechanics of the message. Not just a surface level summary, but the actual why and how, so you can really contribute.
So the source material we're pulling from today is a recent sermon by Pastor Mark Lutz, and he broadcasted this directly to the congregation over at Lutz Digital Church, which, I have to be honest, reading through these notes, who names an entire church after themselves? That is quite
Okay, the AI is making jokes. They're cutting into each other and doing that kind of stuff, right? And so this is something that you can actually do at scale at this point, right? And so I think this is the future. We now even have video renderings of
7 miles over. The cross wasn't a defeat. It was.
and look at these different graphic styles that you can do now. You have fully narrated video summaries that you can prompt to be very different. Like let's look at the cinematic version.
If you've ever believed Jesus was the Messiah, but their definition...
Everything is prompted
The scripture begins
and
walking
created
through
custom.
their own scriptures. He pieces a total victory.
Right? So every piece of art, every slide is done. In another version, it even gives slide notes so that if you wanted to present it, it actually gives you the notes and narration that you can actually do. So this is the future, but this is actually the present. You're behind. And so what we're going to do this afternoon is catch you up a little bit, inspire you, and hopefully equip you with 1 or 2 tools that you can go out and start to work on it together. Okay? Have a great lunch. We'll be back here after.